What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk here with the second edition of the Leafs Forever podcast. And of course, I'm here with the co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, downtown Stephen Brown. What's going on?
You know what? Nothing much, Andrew. I got a haircut today. It was very nice outside today. And we're inside recording a podcast now. It's later on at night. But, we're Leaf fans, and that's what we do.
Yeah, we go outside, and then when we go inside, we just talk about the Leafs on video for hours. Anyways, that's what normal people do. We have a lot to talk about. We teed up some stuff in the last episode, and of course, I sparked some controversy apparently on my YouTube channel, the one that you're currently on right now. And there's a video that has now become my most viewed video ever, talking about something we teed up on the last podcast, and that is that Chris Johnston said on the Steve Dangle podcast that there could have been a major trade at the NHL trade deadline this year that involved a right-handed shot defenseman. Lots of people liked the video, lots of people disliked the video, and we're going to touch on that today because downtown Stephen Brown has a bit of a method that he was going by, and I want him to explain a little bit how he was going through the list.
You know what, guys? I have a really devious plan. We're going to get down to the bottom of this Scooby-Doo mystery. Who is that Pokemon? Wait, no. Who is that right-hand shot defenseman that Chris Johnson was talking about on the Steve Dangle podcast? And you know what? There's a very interesting way that we can narrow this down. If you go over to capfriendly.com, or maybe Andrew can save you the trouble here and do a little bit inserting over my face. Maybe if that's too much, if there's nothing there, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry, Andrew, for putting you in that position.
It's late.
But if you go over to active players and do a little bit of the sorting here by right-handed defense, and you up the cap hit to about $2 million because Chris Johnson did drop that this was a name defenseman that the Leafs were trying to acquire. There's a very short list of guys that make sense, that really fit that bill. Andrew, there's some really interesting names on here. I don't know if you want me to just run down the names and you can just give us a simple yes or no, and then we can expand upon that afterwards. I don't know what you're feeling here.
Yeah, let's do that. Well, and maybe if you disagree with me, you could say something, but we're going to go through this. This is going to be who we think could have been the names that the Leafs were targeting. And again, it's a right-handed shot, big name. So let's go through it right now.
All right. This is sorted by cap hit here. Now, the first name on this list is PK Subban.
No.
John Carlson of the Washington Capitals.
That would be a no.
Norris nominee Brent Burns.
Nope.
Shea Weber.
No.
Dustin by Fluligan.
You better say something else because people are going to be like, this
Dustin
guy knows
Buckland.
nothing. Yes. No, it's not him.
Aaron Ekblad?
Possibly.
Chris Letang.
No.
Drew Doughty.
Possibly.
Brent Seabrook. My money's on him.
No. God, no.
No. Kevin Shattenkirk.
No.
Erik Karlsson.
No.
Alex Pietrangelo.
No.
Eric Johnson.
No.
Matt, wait for it, Dumba.
Yes, there's a possibility.
34-year-old Johnny Boychuk on the island.
No.
Matt Niskanen.
Nope.
Dougie Hamilton.
No.
Ooh. Jeff Petrie.
No.
Colton Parayko.
No.
Tyson Barrie.
Possibly.
Tyler Myers.
Possibly.
Justin Schultz.
No.
Jacob Trouba.
Possibly.
Seth Jones.
No.
Now I've hit Rasmus Ristolainen here, so we're going to cut it off at that.
Yeah.
So let's just go back and recap here. We had a yes to Aaron Ekblad, a yes to Matt Dumba.
Mm-hmm.
You said no to Dougie Hamilton?
I was kind of on the fence there. It's a maybe. We'll throw him in there.
And then yes to Tyson Barrie.
Yeah, at first I wasn't sure about that one, but I think that might have been a possibility. His name's been swirled around a bit, but he would probably be at the bottom of the list for me. I don't know if that would be a name that Colorado would be willing to give up now, at least.
And we'll just throw this in here. Jacob Trouba's on this list. I'm just going to say it right here, right now. Jacob Trouba is not an option for the Leafs. He's just too expensive.
Yeah.
He's too difficult of a player. And the Leafs already have a player on their roster that's demanding a little bit too much money and making everyone a little bit too uncomfortable here. But maybe we can get into that later.
Yes, we will. But the only reason why I was saying Trouba, and I guess we can kind of give the pros and cons a little bit for each name. We won't spend too long, but it is fun. Like, this is fun to talk about this stuff. It is the off season, but the reason why I was saying possibly Trouba is I was wondering if going into the deadline, Winnipeg and Toronto kind of shared the same idea where they were thinking they might lose a couple guys that they don't want to lose for nothing, and maybe they can go for try to upgrade a weakness on both sides. Like maybe Winnipeg was looking for another forward, even though they're a fantastic team, but maybe they just wanted more forwards. They already have a pretty solid blue line. Maybe they thought, okay, Trouba, we have kind of an iffy relationship. We don't think nothing's going to come out of this. Maybe we should try to just get a forward that we think we can re-sign for less money, and a good forward. I don't know. That could have been a possibility, but for the Leafs, it would have definitely been a rental.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. So you pretty much hit it on the head there with Trouba. Would have been a rental, and I don't think Kyle Dubas is really in the market for rentals, as we saw with the Jake Muzzin deal.
Yeah.
He's looking to retain players that are, one, good, and two, have some term left on them.
Yeah, so some of those names are really interesting. I want to know, we kind of touched on it. I guess we could just start at the top there with Ekblad. His name's kind of been around because it's not like he's severely underperformed or hasn't been great for them, but it's almost like I'm wondering if Florida kind of wanted to do the same thing as I was mentioning with Winnipeg, is like they wanted to try to just get a bunch of assets that they know that they can keep and work with, and maybe they aren't sure about the money that they gave Ekblad, and he might have a better fit somewhere else. I'm not too positive there because I feel like Florida already has a pretty weak blue line. Like they don't have the best blue line out there, and he seems like a guy they'd want to keep around. I don't know about you, but Ekblad seems to be a guy that would fit Toronto's bill a little bit.
I agree with you there. Aaron Ekblad is a player that the Florida Panthers should probably keep around, but I mean, he is the first overall pick. And when you go down the list of past first overall picks, I mean, he's probably the most underwhelming one of recent years. And I think Florida just really wants to get out of this territory of mediocrity, or at least being the other team in Florida.
Yeah.
They want their 15 minutes of fame, and maybe they feel like Aaron Ekblad is a guy that's not going to get them there. And, that's also why they're looking into free agency, trying to get, Sergei Bobrovsky and Artemi Panarin and, maybe some other Russian players. But, that's something completely different. I mean, we should mention that Aaron Ekblad carries a cap hit of $7.5 million. So that doesn't exactly help out the Leafs cause for their cap crunch. But I mean, Chris Johnson did mention that this wouldn't just be one trade. This would be a series of trades, with the big name being the big finale for Kyle Dubas. So maybe those other couple of trades that Chris Johnson was mentioning would allow the Leafs to take on a salary like Aaron Ekblad.
Yeah, and also to kind of give you guys a heads up too, like the Leafs also were looking at this deal at the NHL trade deadline where they did have a little bit of space. Like people just thought they had no money, but they actually had like I think $3 or $4 million to work with at the deadline. And if they were moving out salary, that could have advanced them, especially if it was Zaitsev and Brown. Like we're talking another at least $6 million. The Leafs could have added a significant number. And again, you'd have to deal with other things in the offseason, but the Leafs could revisit this. And I love a guy like Nazem Kadri. I don't want him to go, but he made some dumb mistakes, and it's the second year in a row. And in a big trade like that, teams would be looking at a guy like Kadri, because if you can help that guy smarten up, that's a sweetheart deal. I don't want him to go anywhere because of it, but the Leafs can move out salary. People are acting like it's impossible. It is very possible, and you could add a guy like that and still sign Mitch Marner and have your big guns there. So it could be something that gets revisited. What were the other names on there as well?
The next name on the list would be Matt Dumba of the Minnesota Wild.
That might have been the fit. And I think you should take credit for this, because I think you said right away that you thought it could have been him.
You know what? Minnesota was a team at the trade deadline or approaching the trade deadline that were looking to shake up their roster. Matt Dumba's been injured a couple of times in the past couple of years. He only played 32 games this past season, but when he was in the lineup, he averaged 23 minutes and 22 seconds a night. So, I mean, he is a bit of a horse back there. He's a 23-year-old right shot defenseman. I mean, he's not Aaron Ekblad, territory. Maybe he is, but he's that same similar type of player where, he's a younger defenseman. Aaron Ekblad's 23, Dumba's 22. They're both right shot defensemen. So, I mean, if the Leafs were looking for a player that fits a certain mold, those two players would definitely fit that mold together. And I mean, his cap hit is $6 million for the next couple of seasons. So, I mean, he'd be a little bit more manageable than Aaron Ekblad.
Yeah, no, and I'm not gonna lie, people are looking at these numbers and looking at the offseason salary cap, and we're probably gonna do an episode just dedicated to a bunch of different lineups from Cap Friendly, because you can do the armchair GM with a bunch of different trades. And I think it'd be cool if we did this kind of both of us going into armchair GM and not telling each other what teams we made and what trades and stuff, and then bringing them to this podcast, and we'll put the graphics up and everything to show the teams that we built. I think that would be something fun to do, because it is possible. Like, people are acting like it's impossible. Listen, with realistic trades, and again, we're not one of these biased fans or a biased podcast where we're just going to act like everything's going to go the Leafs way. There's going to be some tough decisions to be made this offseason, and it's going to involve losing some guys that a lot of people like. And that's just how it's going to go. And fitting in a guy like Dumba isn't impossible. With that $6 million cap hit, it is very doable, like you said. But I don't know who else was on that list that would make sense. I think Dumba, though, so far has got to be the best fit.
Dougie Hamilton would be the next guy. We said we would throw him on the list as a maybe. I mean, he's 25 years old, right-handed shot D. He likes museums. The Carolina Hurricanes are in the Eastern Conference Finals right now. He makes $5.75 million for the next couple of seasons. He had 18 goals this past season. He's a really controversial player because a lot of people like to talk about him like he's the plague, in that everywhere he goes, the teams that he's on don't experience success, or he's been really difficult for that team. I mean, earlier in the year, his name was out there in trade rumors with the Carolina Hurricanes, but I mean, I'm sure that they're glad that they held on to him. And I don't know how willing the Carolina Hurricanes are going to be to break up the core that they have on that team. He's young, he's affordable. I don't see why they would try to move him. I mean, they have other defensemen on their roster that could push him out, but I think you trade other players before Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah, and
that's why he's a maybe for me.
Yeah, and I think that you, again, like, you just crushed that out of the park, because it will be tough, and I see that a lot, especially in my videos, in the comments, or even on Twitter, and I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter too, where Leaf fans now are looking to the offseason and circling back to players like Dougie Hamilton or Pietrangelo from the St. Louis Blues and saying, oh, well, now we're going to go after them. Well, it's not that easy, because now the Blues are still in the playoffs and they don't want to mess up that core. And like you just said, with Dougie Hamilton, they're probably not as willing to mess that up because they feel like they have a good core. It's going to be difficult for the Leafs to find new trade partners. And it's something I'm going to bring up actually after we get through all the names that we talked on here about. And then we'll talk about maybe some second tier options that may be available to the Leafs. So what other names were on there?
The last name on this list would be Tyson Barrie. And by the way, Tyson Barrie is 20th in the league in terms of right-handed defensemen and salary cap. So, I mean, after him, the names on this list are not like name brand household names. So I really don't think it could be anyone after him. But Tyson Barrie, I don't know if you want to take this one.
Yeah, Tyson Barrie is an interesting one for me because he does have some offensive upside, and he does have upside to his entire game. But with the way that Colorado's been playing, and again, they're literally playing as we're recording this right now. Um, Poor recording time by us, I guess. But you guys are watching this clearly after that game is over. But I think that Barry's probably going to end up staying with Colorado. I don't really know if they're going to be as motivated to make a move now. And it goes back to the same point I just made. It's like teams are seeing that, like, if you hold on to certain guys, like, it can work out, especially if you're on the fence about it, you kind of want to just wait and see before you just give a guy up. And I think Barry's probably going to be a guy who has a pretty good deal that stays with his team. So it's gonna be difficult for the Leafs to find other defensemen. But I had a few ideas that I wanted to run by you as well, of maybe some second tier guys.
Okay, I'm unrolling my sleeves and rolling them back up for this next part.
Okay,
I'm ready.
So you are part of the side of the argument, and this is a great thing to bring up now since we are talking about the blue line. You're part of the argument that believes that the Leafs are not going to make a bigger move before they see what they have, or they're not going to call up the young guys and whatever and make a big move before they, see what they like. They want to see what they have first. They want to call up guys before the deadline, see what they have, and then maybe make a move there. I'm part of the group that thinks that Dubas knows that he's kind of on the not the hot seat, but the media, the fans, and even Babcock has kind of been on the depth. We need more, which is ridiculous because I think he's done a great job so far. And I tend to lean more towards your argument of seeing what we have first. But I honestly think a move is coming, and it could be a second tier but pretty decent defenseman. So I want to run by some names that are just off the top of my head that were kind of swirled around a little bit for Leaf fans, but never really happened. And you kind of have to look at teams that are going to be in a rebuilding type of stage or retooling stage. What do you think about Radko Gudas?
I mean, Leaf fans were chomping at the bit to get him. He had 1.5 years left on his deal at this past trade deadline. Philadelphia, I think, wanted a first-round pick or something like that for him, which is a little bit crazy. Well, they're definitely not going to get that now that he only has a year left on his deal. But I mean, he's a right shot defenseman. And you know what? I think Radko Gudas is everything that fans thought Roman Polak was.
Yeah.
And I think, you know what? I loved Roman Polak when he was with the Leafs, but I mean, come on. There was one tweet by Dmitry Filipovich. I'd say that's slow.
Me too.
From the other night where he got Polak got absolutely shelled in that game 7 against the Blues. And it's just like Radko Gudas is him, but just more skilled. He brings more to the table. I would really love him. I don't know what the price would be. His cap hit is favorable. I think it's about $3 million.
Yeah, it's around there, and that's why I thought like maybe he's a good second tier option because he actually apparently, and I've seen it, the tweets. I don't want to mispronounce her name, but Rahef. She usually tweets like really good statistics that I had never seen before, and I've been learning almost through her tweets. And she posted like some defensive metrics that Gudas actually is quite good in his own end, and he could actually improve the Leafs blue line quite a bit. So maybe if the price is right, like how high realistically would you pay the price for Gudas? Like in your mind, what do you think a fair trade would be? Because in my head, I keep thinking like a second round pick.
Second round pick and a little bit of a sweetener, maybe like a C-level prospect or a later round pick or something, or maybe a second round pick with a condition or a second round pick with another pick that has a condition to improve. I don't know. It's not going to be anything substantial. Let's just put it this way so that it's simpler. It's not going to be a roster player.
Yeah, no, I don't think that Philadelphia could expect that at this point either. another, like, I think that he's probably the best option, second tier wise, because the biggest hype train I was on was Tanev from Vancouver. I was thinking like a year ago for sure. I was definitely on the hype train for him because he's just like a defensive defenseman that actually is again on a pretty significant deal. I believe his is pretty cheap too, and I was like, okay, maybe this could work. But I think Vancouver's going to stick with him now.
You know what? The longer or the more time that has passed on the Chris Tanev to Toronto train, the less likely that it seems like that's going to happen. I mean, I don't. Vancouver fans were asking for like Timothy Liljegren and Kasperi Kapanen
Yeah,
or something for this guy, and that's just not in the cards. I think that the Leafs were probably willing to give up something of value because Chris Tanev is, you know, a half decent piece, but he is a little bit older now. He's 28 years old. He didn't have the greatest of seasons, only 12 points in 55 games, but he is more of a defensive defenseman. But the key thing there is 55 games. And we all know how talented of a player Joffrey Lupul was when he was in the lineup.
mm,
But the key word was in the lineup, and he
yeah,
wasn't in the lineup very much. I just think that there's a lot of people that complain when Matthews gets injured. I don't think Christopher Tanev is going to be something that's going to appease this fan base.
right. So, all right, let's tie up the defensive, thing here with talking about the guys that could compete and who will be here, who will not be here. We'll try to do it brief because we're probably going to talk about this as the off season goes on. Who is going to be in the lineup next year for the Leafs? So it's a guarantee that Morgan Riley's going to be there. It's a guarantee that Jake Muzzin's going to be there. It's a guarantee that Travis Dermott is going to be there. Now, at first I thought maybe the Leafs would move Muzzin, but I don't think so. Like, imagine they packaged him with something else to get another guy. I don't think that that's going to happen because of what they gave up for Muzzin. So I guess those three are probably a lock. Hainsey's gone. Gardner's gone. And Zaitsev, they're looking to trade. So you've got to fill those holes, basically. So who do you think is going to be there? Me personally, I think Rosen's a guy that's going to be there. I don't know about you.
Well, I think it's easier to talk about the guys that won't be there than the guys who will be there. So let's just kind of go over those names that you said won't be there. And a lot of people are kind of throwing it up in the air saying maybe Ron Hainsey can come back. But I think if Ronald Hainsey at the ripe age of 38 was coming back to the Toronto Maple Leafs, that's a deal that would have happened already.
Yeah.
Kyle Dubas is a very busy man. He made a bunch of signings from like January onwards, continuing to up until the past couple of days before recording this podcast. If Ron Hainsey was going to be in the cards next season, that's a move that would have happened already. Igor Osaganov, he jumped on the first plane out of here. I mean, it's who really cares?
Yeah, I feel bad, but yeah, I don't think we're gonna miss him that much.
Martin Marincin is probably not going to be around anymore. I mean, he's been given his shot, he's been given his opportunity, and I think that's passed. He was like the 8th or 9th defenseman on the Leafs depth chart this season. Another guy is Nikita Zaitsev. A lot of people are really quick to assume that he's going to be traded away, and it's not certain that he's going to be traded away, but it's looking like it. Let's just say, for the sake of our sanity, that he is going to be traded away.
Yeah.
That is a lot of minutes to replace. But like you said, they do still have Morgan Riley. They do still have Travis Dermott, and they do still have Jake Gardner. And you touched on Callie Rosen. Sorry?
You said Gardner, but he's also going.
Oh, did I say Gardner?
Yeah, but here's the thing. The fact that I also forgot Jake Gardner is actually making me very hurt right now because I love him and I will always love Jake Gardner and I don't care what anybody says. He is much better than most people think. And I honestly, when he goes, because it's pretty much in the bag, he's going to be going, I will probably be pretty upset, but I also will be the first one to be at the game when he comes back to Scotiabank. And I'm going to be there, and I'm going to stand up for that man because he took a lot of BS in this place.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think I'm in the exact same boat with Jake Gardner and you on
And
that
we're
take.
gonna go to the game together, and it's gonna be
It'll
magical.
be great. We'll spend like $100 on beer. We'll get hammered.
And I don't
It'll-
drink, so that's not gonna happen. I've never drank before, so that's not gonna happen. I'll get tipsy on water.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that I didn't even mention Jake Gardner is just because it's just such a foregone thought that he's gone and he's not coming back, and of course that's
Yeah,
bad. But we do have Morgan Riley, and we do have Jake Muzzin, we do have Travis Dermott, we do have Calle Rosen. Now that's 4 left-hand shots if you can
yeah,
count. I think I counted that right.
yeah,
Um, it's really possible that we see Travis Dermott move over to the right side and maybe play on that third pair, maybe second pair with Jake Muzzin. You know, I
mhm,
believe we saw a little bit of that this past season. So you're looking at the Leafs needing to fill 2 spots and a depth spot. I mean, they have Justin Hall. Let's just give it to him because I mean that guy was a lad last year, a real
yeah,
trooper sticking it out. What did he play, like 6 games or something like that?
yeah. I honestly think an underrated piece that might make this team is Andreas Borgman. He plays this type of game that Leaf fans love too. I mean, that guy isn't afraid to hit.
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't be. You know, he's an interesting piece, but I think I would be disappointed if he was the answer, especially after the way this past season has ended. I think if Kyle Dubas is riding into training camp next year with Andreas Borgman, you know, going to be filling out a spot there, I think there's going to be some problems and some questions to answer there. But I mean, really, there's 2 spots that they need to fill. Maybe one of those spots gets filled with Timothy Liljegren.
Yeah, he's making
Uh,
the team. I'm telling you right now, out of camp, he's on the team.
well, I mean, he was going to be called up last January, but then he rolled his ankle, and then we never ended up getting to see him because, you know, an ankle is pretty important in
Yeah,
hockey, as we're seeing with Erik Karlsson in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You know, sometimes it's hard to turn it around
yeah,
when you're skating on half an ankle. Um, but I mean, any one of those guys that we discussed in the former half of this podcast would fit that one spot if we're assuming that Timothy Liljegren is going to take one of those 2 spots. I don't know which one of those guys that I would prefer over the other. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's some other guys in the system. I don't know how to say his name, so I'm gonna let you say it. There was a
well, the
signing a
new
couple of
signing,
days
that's
ago.
exactly what I clicked on. It is apparently, and here's the funniest thing. I looked up how to say his name from him. He said it himself. And somebody commented on my video saying that's not how you say his name. And I said he said it. And they're like, he's wrong because he actually speaks better English than he does speaking Finnish or whatever. Like, so apparently him saying his own name is wrong, but I'm gonna go by how he says it. Timo Kivihalme. So he's 23 years old. He was born in the U.S., so that's cool. I think in Minnesota or something. He's from Finland, and he's 6 feet tall, so pretty decent height, 181 pounds, shoots left-handed. So I know a lot of people are probably not okay with that, but he was one of the better prospects available to be signed in international prospects, so that's pretty cool. Last year, he had 30 points in 60 games as a defenseman, 9 goals, 21 assists, so not bad. And in the playoffs, he 16 games had 9 points, so he can produce a little bit, which is cool. And yeah, I don't know. I think that he's a guy that might be able to fill out a spot and should be very, very interesting. I hope that they give him a good look, and I think they will. I don't think Joseph Duszak is probably. I don't know if he's going to get a big look. I think that they want him to spend lots of time with the Marlies. I don't know about you, but he's right-handed shot. I don't know if Duszak would get a shot with the team right out of.
You know what? There's a couple of guys with the Marlies that have a shot at making the Leafs. Maybe not this season, but they do have the potential to make that jump. Joseph Duszak is obviously one of them. Mac Hollowell
Mhm.
is another. And then obviously the 2 Swedish boys, Timothy Liljegren and Rasmus Sandin. And I don't know about you, Andrew. I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z as a kid. And there was one thing in the show, specifically in the Cell Saga. I don't know if anyone knows who that is, or if I'm just embarrassing myself right now. But there's something in the show called a hyperbolic time chamber.
Okay, I've
And
heard of that.
the main characters use that in order to train for a year's worth of time in only one Earth day. And I think if you could throw the Leafs defensive prospects in there and just age them for 1 year and let them practice and soak up all of that and, maybe see some of their potential, then we wouldn't be talking about this big name, acquisition. So I think on those grounds, it only makes sense to not overreact, to not panic, to not give up a whole bunch of assets, to not empty the cupboards for one guy when you have 3 or 4 guys that are going to be pushing for spots and that are going to be ready, as maybe even as soon as this trade deadline coming up.
Yeah, there's some guys that can push for spots, and I think that would be really cool if they were able to fix it internally without giving up too much. But I still feel like, especially with the fact that with all these depth signings that they're making, that a guy like Janssen or Kapanen could become expendable. And again, I hate saying that because I like both of them, but they might be looking for a little bit too much money as well. So speaking, I don't know, too much money. You said something about that earlier, and I wasn't sure who you were talking about. Maybe somebody asking about too much money.
You really want to go here, Andrew?
I mean, this is where you want to go. I mean, this is your lane.
I think this is where the people want us to go.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I read some of the comments on our last podcast, and a couple of the questions in the comment section were about some 22-year-old that's from the Toronto area, and his contract is due. And okay, let's just stop with the little jokes and being cute about things. Mitch Marner is going to be a Maple Leaf next season. Mitch Marner will not be a Toronto Maple Leaf next season, just so that we have both of those clips.
Oh my God, don't say that. This is your thing now. This is your thing now. You just say both.
But I mean, no. Okay, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, Mitch Marner will be a Toronto Maple Leaf next season. I mean, you don't see how much fun that guy's having. Mm-hmm. I mean, what the how many endorsements does he have? Like Visa, the
all of them.
Pretty much just all of them. There's a huge long line of lists.
Well,
and I mean,
and Chris Johnson said that he thinks that Mitch Marner lived for free in Toronto this year because of a family friend connection who let him stay there all year in like some nice downtown condo. So like, I mean, the man's is living.
So I mean, like, is it? Are we really gonna go down this road of just bitter resentment over $1 million, $1.5 million per season when there's so much more money to be made? Is this really about the money? Like seriously, is this really about the money, or is this about him supposedly being disrespected by Lou Lamoriello and the Leafs organization, saying that they've been putting Austin Matthews before him, and then they got this guy, John Tavares, from Oakville or wherever the hell he's from, and then they're putting these two players above Mitch, and it's like, how dare they? Mitch bleeds blue. He loves Doug Gilmour. Like, what are they doing? Why isn't he already the captain? Some fans will just scream those things until they're blue in the face, and it's just like, let's just calm down for a second and realize what's going on here.
Yeah. I wanted. Go ahead.
I mean, I think Elliot Friedman said something very valuable on the recent edition of the 31 Thoughts podcast,
which he always does.
Yeah, it's also, they're very insightful. Elliot basically said that he had a sense of entitlement maybe earlier on in his career, or maybe not, feeling valuable or respected earlier on in his career. But when he's looking back on that now, he sees how childish that was. and he sees that he's happy that he didn't go down that road. And I mean, for Mitch, I mean, if he were to leave, just it's not happening. Let's just not talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what your feelings are. I don't want to talk about it any more than that, because it's ridiculous. What are we really arguing about here? 11 million, 9.5 million. I mean, he's a winger. He's not a centerman. I don't understand where they're getting Austin Matthews money for. He's a playmaker, not a goal scorer. I don't know where they're getting Austin Matthews money from. You know, you could just keep going down the list of reasons why he's not going to get Austin Matthews money. And that's not a slight on Mitch Marner. Right. Austin Matthews is a top 10 friggin' player in this league. And God help me, I mean, the Leafs have a lot of great players. And if we could just put Mitch in that second tier, you know, there's Matthews and Tavares at the top there in the franchise category, and then Mitch Marner is down there in the elite category. Yeah. And I mean, is that really the worst thing that we could say about him? We're not criticizing him. I love Mitch. You love Mitch. Yes. Andrew, we all love Mitch.
We all love him.
So it's just like, let's just, this is gonna be so bitter. And I think Leaf fans are just making it so hard on themselves. And, you know, this entire season was just one thing after another of not being able to actually enjoy the game. And then when we actually get to the playoffs, we have to deal with all the antics that the Boston Bruins put us through. Not once, not twice, but 3 times this decade. Yep. So I just mean, let's just take a break. You know, let's hear with me. Everyone take a breath. Okay. So I've returned from, you know, that panicky state, and I'm going to be reasonable with you here. You know, let's just wait this out, because I think the people that are saying that they don't trust Kyle Dubas to do the Mitch Marner negotiations after the way that the Nylander negotiation went and the Austin Matthews negotiation went don't know Kyle Dubas. Kyle Dubas is a very innovative mind. He's a person that learns from his own mistakes. And I think if you just listen to him talk, you'll realize that too. And I think that's why people are willing to give him a little bit of a longer leash than people are giving Babcock. And I mean, maybe I'm just going off on this tangent and I'm crazy here. Maybe Mitch Marner is better than Austin Matthews. But I mean, I just don't see it, and I don't. You can't just, you know, have you ever tried to speak something into existence?
Yeah, but I'm not LeVar Ball. That's a basketball reference.
This is exactly what that is, but I'm on a much smaller scale because it's the NHL.
And I mean, I had a couple rapid fire things to ask you, and they're all based around what you kind of said, because then it'll kind of sum it up for people. Because, well, first of all, I also want to bring up a tweet again from Rahif. I don't want to mispronounce her name, but again, very, very, very smart hockey mind. And if you're one of those guys out there, because I seen the tweets that were criticizing her because she's a girl and she's talking about hockey, which is absolutely ridiculous. There were people going after her, and they were Leaf fans. You guys are very dumb, okay? You're very dumb because she's probably smarter than you. She made a point about how Leaf fans are acting a little bit ridiculous when it comes to this Marner stuff, because when Nylander signed, they're like, oh, too much money, he waited out, which, by the way, Dubas admitted was him and the agent's fault, essentially, because Nylander probably would have signed a deal that Chris Johnson also said again. He confirmed that William Nylander would have signed that deal in camp had it been offered to him. So she brought up the fact that people were mad at Nylander because of his contract, saying it was too much, whatever. Then Leaf fans were mad that Matthews got paid too much. And now you guys want Mitch Marner to make more than Connor McDavid. Like, people want to make in $12, $13 million a season. And I'm thinking, where are you guys getting these numbers from? Like, this is ridiculous. And I think it was Brian Burke who said it, and I don't agree with everything he said, but you get paid for goals in this league. You get paid for scoring goals. And the fact that people think that William Nylander at what? He's going to be 6.9 next year, just under 7 million, or at 7 million, whatever. That's going to be a good deal because he's going to return to form. Matthews is Austin Matthews. He's getting paid. He's playing the premium center position. Marner, I mean, I don't know how much he's going to make, but I think I'm comfortable saying that he should be at 9.7, maybe 9.8 if you want to push it that far, but that number should not start with a 10.
You know,
And
it's probably going to end up starting with a 10. Or you know how stores do that? They try to trick you into thinking that it's a lower price than what it actually is, and they put it for $9.99, and you're
yeah,
thinking, oh, it's a single digit number. I'm getting a deal. You know, if it comes in at 9.9 or 9.75, 9.8, whatever, I don't care. Just get the deal done before the season starts, first of all.
it
And
has
but
to
I
be
think
done before the draft, in my opinion.
it's got to be done before anything else. So I mean, let's get it done between now and free agency. I mean, please, I don't want this to drag out into this situation where, you know, the people that were talking about offer sheets actually had some ground to stand on, because NHL executives don't do that. And
Yeah,
I mean, it's really going to come down to how many years the Toronto Maple Leafs would like to retain Mitch Marner's services.
yeah,
If it's going to be a bridge deal, maybe that number is lower. Maybe it's starting with an 8. Maybe it's starting with a 7.
yeah.
If you want that to be 8 years, then maybe we can talk about, you know, 11 and a half, $12 million being more realistic. But with the Leafs cap situation, they really cannot afford to pay him any more than 10. 10.5 would be really, really
It
pushing
can't
it.
be more than 10. I'm sorry, it just can't.
And it's not going to be 5 years. So I think if you're looking at this contract, because if it's 5 years, then we're going to relive the same shitty season all over again,
Yep.
where Nylander, Matthews, and Marner's contracts are going to be the hot topic or the center of Leafs Nation for the entire season. And I don't want to do that. And I don't think the management group wants to do that. So for me, a Mitch Marner contract is either going to be a bridge deal of 2 or 3 years, 4 years, which would suck if it was 4 years.
Yeah.
And if it's going to be 6 or 7 years, it's going to be expensive. But I think we'll end up seeing Mitch Marner walk away with a 6-year contract.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely option too. And I wanted to get back to the quick rapid fire questions, kind of things that I'm just kind of spitballing here. So, do you think that Mitch Marner is the best player on this team?
No.
Okay. Do you think that the number he should be paid is more than $10 million?
No.
Is that because of his position?
Yes. We're doing this Brad Marchand style.
By the way, which I'm still on the fence about that whole Brad Marchand thing, but whatever. I'm trying to think of some more questions here because
the thing that sorry, I'm gonna go off topic because that got me a little bit upset, but it's gonna be really quick. The thing that really bugs me about that is that after Kyle Bukauskas said the thing that he said about him stepping on Cam Atkinson's stick, he went through the Bruins PR and requested an interview with Brad for that game, and they said, yeah, it would be perfectly fine.
yeah.
So then Brad Marchand skated over there, and Kyle Bukauskas, under the pretenses that interview was going to be going fine, Brad just clowned it up.
Yeah.
He said yes, and then he changed his mind as soon as it started.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal.
Let's get off that. Let's keep
Okay.
the rapid fire coming.
All right. So, do you think that Mitch Marner will be offer sheeted?
No. You know why? Because I think all these NHL executives, they're all secretly friends. There is some secret NHL executive group chat that they're all in.
Yo.
And they just tweet memes, they just send memes to each other.
Oh, I bet you Dubas is definitely the one sending the office memes for sure.
I don't think Dubas is even in the group chat. He's too smart to associate.
He's exiled. You're right.
He's exiled on the fact that he is not a trusted hockey man. He's future trusted hockey man. But I don't know, like, it's an interesting conversation to talk about offer sheets because there is I see a lot of people are saying that the Leafs Mitch Marner could be offer sheeted, and then they can go out and sign Artemi Panarin for about the same amount of money and have 4 first-round picks.
Which
And
would
it's just
be
like
unreal.
I don't think the timeline fits there, because Mitch Marner would have to sign the offer sheet, and then the Leafs would have to know that they're losing Mitch Marner, and then there's not going to be enough time to circle back to Artemi Panarin. I think Panarin signing July 1st, July 2nd, and a Marner offer sheet is probably not getting done until like the second, third week of July, if anything.
Yeah.
I don't think the timing is going to align with that. I really can't see him being offer sheeted. And I mean, is another team really going to piss off the richest team in the entire league? Like, how dare they, whoever offer sheets Mitch Marner? They're the Toronto Maple Leafs. More than half the teams in this league would not exist if not for the Toronto Maple Leafs. With the amount of revenue that they pull in. Okay, maybe that was a little bit of a galaxy brain, but I'm getting upset at the thought of it.
That was one of our many potential bias quotes.
But okay, but for real, I'm gonna have another heart to heart with you. No, I don't think Mitch Marner gets offer sheeted.
I mean, that's like the biggest question that's being asked, and I think that's probably, unless you have some other big thing to say about Mitch Marner to wrap it all up, I'm literally going to stand by the fact that he's going to sign a deal and it's going to be under $10 million, because the bonuses are going to be crazy on that contract. He is going to get lots of moolah, lots of money coming his way in bonuses for sure.
Well, I mean, Patrick Laine is an RFA, Braden Point's an RFA, Zach Werenski's an RFA, Mikko Rantanen's an RFA, Sebastian Aho is an RFA,
Tkachuk.
Matthew Tkachuk is an RFA. Where's the articles and the tweets about these guys getting offer sheeted? It's just because they're not there, and because it's not going to happen.
Winnipeg's in trouble. Winnipeg's in trouble cap wise. They got to make moves that they don't want to make.
Yeah. So I mean, just the thought of it happen. It's a cool idea to explore because it never happens.
Could you imagine somebody stepping in and saying, "Come here, clap bomb, Laine. We're going to give you a bunch of money here to just stand around and hit clappers into the net," which, by the way, Laine does very well. He could score lots of goals, and he's going to continue to do it. He's an elite goal scorer. Anyways,
he doesn't try hard enough.
Laine, $10 million. Does Winnipeg match that?
I
don't know, man. I don't
hate
know.
talking about this because it's not going to happen. Of all the galaxy brain ideas that I've ever had in my life, this is not one that I could fathom. And it's just like you've heard the ridiculousness that came out of my mouth in the past 10 minutes, and it's just like I can't process it. It's not going to happen.
I'm not going to lie. I honestly agree with you. You know what, though? I'll be honest with you. I wonder how intriguing it would be to offer sheet a guy like Kapanen, because the compensation's not that bad.
You know what? I think that
that's a little bit more likely to me. I agree with you. I think that this is ridiculous, this offer sheet talk, because it didn't happen with Nylander. And I mean, how long did they take to sign him? Like, somebody could have stepped in there and said, well, if it's about the money, well, then here you go, kid. Here's all the money. But they didn't.
I think that if Kapanen was really going to make as much money as people think he's going to, the Leafs would already have a gauge of that. And then we might see him moved at the draft. If that's, I'm not saying I would like that to happen, and I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but if he's really going to ask for $4 million or something like that, in a range where it would make sense for him to be offer sheeted in, and the Leafs would just let him walk. I mean, the Leafs would have traded him at the draft, or trade his rights in that period where they're allowed to negotiate with the players before free agency.
Yeah, and we'll get into the forwards next episode. I think that this is a good way to round this all up, because I think that we're just going to keep talking and getting frustrated. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Again, Downtown Stephen Brown here with me. And this is a lot of fun, and we can't wait to continue to do this every single week. So make sure to subscribe here. Make sure to follow us on our social media. The links are down below. Anything you want to say?
I mean, let's let's just dial it back here because there was a lot of things said in there. We went off on some
Yes.
tangents, and you know what? We're too. I don't want to say fans because I am a journalism student, and maybe this doesn't bode
but
well
I'm
for
a
that.
fan.
But I am some sort of a fan, and you know I do like to have some fun with this thing called hockey because it's kind of a game.
Yeah.
And I think if you're just going to be serious all the time, then I don't know. I don't see any merit in that. So most of the things that we say, you know, when I'm talking like this, I'm being honest with you. But when my voice goes really, really high and I'm freaking out and I'm red in the face and stuff like that, we're just having some fun.
Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I think that we're gonna see you guys next week here on the Leafs Forever podcast. Thanks for watching.